Hey everyone, before I get started, I just want to remind you that if you like my content, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and then join the Militiaman and Crew Patreon community by clicking the link in the caption. Hey, good afternoon everybody. It's Sunday. I'd like to just catch up with everybody. It's a wonderful day. I know that where I live right now, no wind, sunny, lake's beautiful. So I hope you guys were having a good day yourselves. Hey, looks like about two to 3 days ago, there was a call for an emergency plan that's in the news. It says the dollar in Iraq is entering a dangerous turning point, and it's an unprecedented American decision. So the decision that they've made is basically, here it's quoted that the U.S. federal bank refused to provide Iraq central bank with $1 billion in cash. And that dangerous precedent has been taken seriously by the Iraqi government. So obviously it's caught the Iraqi banks and the Iraqi government on alert, and for good reason. If you recall that there was, we're going to see that there's an unusual event that was supposed to take place, and I think that we're going to get to that, so just bear with me and we're going to see how it turns out. It says here that the trust between the Iraqi Central Bank and the American Federal Reserve has deteriorated. The Americans cannot tolerate procrastination or prevarication any longer. Basically, they was looking at it like this, is that you guys are telling us things and saying things that you're going to do, but you don't do it, effectively lying about it or evading the truth, if you will. So here it says the United States has warned the Al-Sistani's government 8 times publicly. Okay, they clearly state that they're against the sale of the dollar in large quantities through the currency auction window of the central bank. Basically, it says the American side has provided ample evidence that the majority of buyers of the dollar are smuggling it out of the country to the various countries, Iran, Syria, and Lebanon. And basically, they're saying that this led to the monopoly of the dollar among merchants and a decline in its presence in local and private banks. Key word is decline in its presence. So in other words, it's suggesting here early on, this is kind of a warning sign, it says that the decline in its presence in local and private banks. So what we're going to see is, where was this chaos today? Okay, so pay attention to that, because decline in its presence, meaning that the local and private banks don't have the dollar. And so you're going to see how that plays out. He goes on that Mohammed Shia Al-Sistani, he's the prime minister of Iraq, I think you all know that pretty well. He pledged to solve the crisis by establishing mechanisms to prevent the smuggling of hard currency. He hasn't been all that successful, but they may be now, though we'll find out. It says the problem is big in Iraq, and they're facing huge challenges that may lead to a crack in the current system. Didn't quite pick up on that at first, but there's a crack in the system, meaning that there's going to come a time where push is going to come to shove, and we'll see how that lays out. Some of the things that I was thinking of, basically, in my view, is that the USA has been tired of being lied to. The U.S. system for Iraq to attain the dollar within and through internationally accepted compliance procedures, it's not going away. So in other words, you're going to have to play by the rules. I think Al-Sistani, I think the Central Bank of Iraq, they all know that, and we've been talking about this for months, and it's obvious that it's push come to shove, and that's now. It says, there's data out that says that this Sunday there could be an extraordinary amount of people at the banks to withdraw cash from the windows, and sure enough, when we said that it was going to be an unusual Sunday, it is an unusual Sunday. So anybody, those folks that are concerned about the shock comment by others, that they're shocked that it hasn't happened. Well, I think everybody's been shocked, and so that the reason why they're shocked is because this should have happened. So how about this, is that the Central Bank of Iraq and the United States of America basically just shocked the market, because they're basically stating that when you go to the bank, central bank is going to tell you here shortly, is that you're okay to go get your money from the bank, and the bank needs to have it. So there's some exposure going on. Something happened, and we're going to get into that. So watch this. It says that The quote I'll come back to was actually as far back as the 4th of this month, so that's obviously a shot across the bow. It says, despite repeated denials and official reassurances, an informed banking source in Baghdad expected that next Sunday, that's today, will be an unusual day in all banks and may witness unprecedented overcrowding and crowding at cash withdrawal windows after a dramatic statement by a central bank official to the news that withdrawing the dollar in cash and receiving foreign transfers will stop at the beginning of next year. All of that stuff we just talked about, there you go, in the news, in front of everybody, and it is, and you will see that there was an unprecedented move, right? So it goes and says here's just the quote. I think I'll just touch on this. This was October 6th, so that was the 4th. This is the 6th. Central Bank of Iraq confirms the continued arrival of dollar cash from the Federal Reserve. Basically what they're saying is that the regular scheduled deliveries, the legal ones, they're not stopping. That request for specific cash was denied by the Federal Reserve Bank. So that's just to let you know, people can still travel, medical, school, all that kind of stuff. They can still get it for legitimate purposes. That's not the question here. It's the large sums of money that they're hiding in the black market. The black market is the problem, and they just got pinched because who are the people involved in that black market? They're talking about private banks and non-private banks. There's people out there that are circumventing the rules, are basically just got put on notice, and they are going to have heavy duty notice in the last couple of days. Actually, it probably happened on Friday, wasn't reported until yesterday, and exposed again more so today. Who is this? A specialist, right? Hamed Al-Tamimi, he pointed out the private banks have begun to seize the dollar and refuse to give it to the citizens, even those who have travel and work. So if somebody's doing something they're not supposed to be doing. So if you're doing things you're not supposed to be doing, you're going to find out here pretty quick that there's somebody that's going to talk about that. It says here that the dollar was given illegally to many merchants in order to make black transfers. What do they mean by that? Black market. So in other words, you're going to probably see and understand that these banks, people deposit money into the banks, have a legal right, an inherent right to be able to get that money back. The private banks, non-banks, went into the black market and speculated. That's why it looks like they didn't have any money. Therefore, they're going to be exposed. And I think you're going to probably prove that. Okay, it says here the U.S. Treasury official said that the Central Bank of Iraq must address the ongoing risks resulting from the misuse of the dollar in Iraqi commercial banks to avoid imposing new punitive measures targeting the country's financial sector, pointing to acts of fraud, money laundering, and Iranian evasion. Okay, there's penalties for that. You're going to find this out. Some of those penalties aren't just going to come from a banking authority and the government authority, but it's going to come from a religious authority. Okay, one of the highest in the world, Muslim world anyway. Okay, it says the official note said last July, the United States prevented 14 banks from conducting transactions in dollars as a broader campaign against the illegal use of the dollar. So basically, they went through this and told everybody. They've been talking about it for quite a long time. As you heard me say earlier on, the very beginning, is that Iraq's lied to, or has basically stated that they were going to do things 8 different times, and the United States Treasury said we're tired of it. It's push come to shove. It says that was basically the first warning, and then there's obviously a second warning going to come here, but this first warning that we get, what I mean by that is, it says Iraq will ban cash withdrawals and transactions in US dollars as of January 2024. So basically they set the stage that they're going to have, you're not going to be able to deal in dollars anymore in January. Does that mean we're waiting for January? I don't think so. I think what they did was they just jump-started this thing like quickly. So let's see how this turns out. I think there's going to be a second warning to them, and I think they probably just didn't take it seriously enough. But when they get one warning and they get a second warning, then you see what happens today is that those banks that were doing things that they weren't supposed to be doing just got exposed. And that's probably not going to be good because there's consequences, both on that religious end, if you remember I said, and obviously on the banking side, which will get probably to the judiciary side in the future. So there's going to be consequences, and they probably know who's who. And they did say, I don't have that article today because I just didn't have the time to go back and get it, but they set the stage that they knew that this was coming. The judiciary knew that there was going to be some corruption to be exposed, and without paying attention and not reading and not coming into Patreon and to the Discord and following along and doing a proper study, knowing what you own, the Iraqi dinar, you're not going to be able to understand how all these components and how this process works. And that's why we here at Militiaman and Crew try to give everybody guidance. We're not counting any specific thing to be smoking gun, but we can see that if you come in, you can do some research on your own, and you can find that what we say shows a pattern, and it's a collective pattern, just like I'm doing here today. So take that into consideration, please. The value with Militiaman, Patreon, Crew, the Discord room is its value. Okay, so come on and see us. Let's see, the line of cash dollar crisis expected in the beginning of 2024, and that the decision of the central bank, it basically is stating that the foreign banks are likely to stop the selling of that foreign currency, which is the USD. So we're going to see how that turns out. And there are a number of banks controlling the window of buying and selling the foreign currency, which are non-Iraqi banks. So here's the second warning that they're talking about. It says the money transfers are under the pretext of buying goods, and here the delay in the real transfers indicates that the fake remittances are supported by a political group, armed factions affiliated with economics of the parties. So what they're saying in this particular case is that those that are political groups, the armed factions, they're the ones that are involved in this getting the dollars from the private banks and going out into the black market and speculating, effectively stealing the money and pushing it out into other countries. And so that's basically going to stop. And they specifically talked about some big name countries, and I'll let you guys go back and see if you can find those. It looks like here it says it's supported by a political group, okay, the armed factions affiliated, right? So all of those parties are now under what's going to come next is probably that religious side too, probably legal, but yet they're also going to be on warning that if they're involved in this, that there's a problem. It says that the central bank has pointed out that its reforms are aimed at achieving compliance of the bank and the Iraqi banking system in general with internal compliance standards and in a way that prevents the dollar from reaching entities prohibited from obtaining or speculating. Setting it back up. Setting up, I mean by that is the word speculating. I mentioned the banks. The banks were going into the black market. They're taking the deposits. Citizens show up and they say, knock, 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 can I get my money back? And they say, no, no, no. And they say, why? Is because we speculated on it. But we're sorry. Then they say, well, we have a guarantee, we have insurance, right? And they say, well, yeah, but we don't have the money because we don't have the dollars. But basically they're supposed to have it on hand. They're supposed to have 80%, I believe 80 to 90% of the cash that you deposit into the bank in dollars, you should be able to get back out at least because they have it on hand. Because normally not everybody's going to come up and show up and grab 80, 90% of the money, right? But this is where they're at. And that's what caused some chaos and a crisis, if I have that correctly. That's my interpretation of it. Basically, it's the internal foreign non-banks that have been the problem. And we're going to see, obviously, the outcome, because I have a feeling it's going to be pretty good. And here, when we come down to the religious side of things, which is really intense, because I think the last time that this man has created or submitted a fatwa in Iraq. Al-Sistani, the supreme leader, religious leader, he effectively said a fatwa against ISIS, and it went away pretty fast. Okay, so there's consequences when this man puts out a fatwa. And it says the director of the Office of the Supreme Religious Authority, Ali Al-Sistani, reported on yesterday, that the authority repeatedly called for combating corruption and issued a fatwa to respect the laws, right? He warned officials of the danger of legislating laws that granted undeserved privileges. So in other words, if you're passing laws and you're giving people undeserved privileges, that's part of the fatwa. He goes on to say a lot of stuff here, but things that I think were excellent components were he explains that the economic and financial corruption is the foundation of all corruption, and it is what paves the way for all types of corruption, and it is what comes to mind when the topic of corruption and combating it is raised, pointing out the concepts of financial disclosure. Where did you get this from? So all these guys that got big paychecks, just kind of like in our country, why is it that you earn $200,000 a year, but you have 300 million or 200 million in the bank? It doesn't add up. But bottom line, Iraq's no different, and they seem to have the same point. And Al-Sistani, Ali Al-Sistani, with all due respect, where did you get this? So they're going to be looking at that. And they've been talking about this for quite a long time. There's a law out there. I think if they take it seriously, that'll probably come to fruition. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see our dear friend Halabusi talking about that in the coming days. But we'll take a peek at that and we'll see. But down here it says, he stated that Mr. Al-Sistani repeatedly called for the necessity of combating corruption and to strike with an iron fist. So people, hey, that's going to be public. This is public, right? So he's going to strike with an iron fist to who dares to infringe on public funds. So basically, the shot across the bow to all those people that have been stealing money. He issued a fatwa that applicable laws must be respected and that it is forbidden to transgress them. He also issued a fatwa that the money that any employee or official obtains in violation of the law is forbidden fraud. Wasting public money and appropriating it or even illegal disposal of it is forbidden. Okay? That's pretty heavy. So think about that for a minute, the consequences, right? He says basically the authority condemns the misuse of power by many of those who were elected or held senior positions in the government. So you see how that is, employees and officials, okay? And then it goes on here and says elected or senior positions in the government and their contribution to spreading corruption and wasting public money in an unprecedented manner, distinguishing themselves with large salaries and allocations, and their failure to perform their duties in serving the people and providing a decent life for their children. Al-Sistani is going from the bottom to the top. Probably going to come back down too. But the bottom line is Al-Sistani warned officials of the danger of legalized corruption. So I'm going to imagine the people that are sitting high and have big fat bank accounts and real estate and the corruption. Remember the crime of the century. I think some of those politicians are probably looking across at each other in the mosque, kind of double taking, looking at each other, and kind of going, "Uh-oh, he's talking about us." So they go on to say what types of corruption. He says, pointing out that the repeatedly called for working to legislate laws that reinforce the principles of social justice and addresses people's concerns and their pain and their hopes, but there is no life for those you call out to. I think he's basically saying that anybody goes against them, you got problems. You go against the citizens, you take their money, public money, you got a problem. And it's not going to go away. Basically, when Al-Sistani speaks of fatwa, to follow laws this intensely, what this article is talking about, I suggest you come into Patreon, get a copy of it, read it, Google it, search it, however you want to do that. But the failure to do the right thing will likely have significant consequences. That's my interpretation of it. Like I said, that crime of the century and others is just the beginning, but they'll go all the way to the top. A fatwa is a very serious thing, and I think the Muslim population of the world understand that. So we'll see how that goes. And of all things, to put it interestingly enough, that article there, and then this comes out secondary to that article. It says financial tycoons and political hosts, end quote, money of unknown origin is troubling the poor and the price is deferred. So it says in the city of Diyala, I guess it is, in a way that has raised many question marks, especially since the publication of pictures of banquets has raised many question marks about the source of that money, especially since its owners are employees of the state institutions, or at least rather close to circles. So if you looked at the photographs in this article, you could see the opulence in the building. I mean, they got gold leaf chairs, everything's all stone, and it's really high end, right? So they're poking these guys and showing it. And he says here, he points out that there are many manifestations of extravagance in Diyala, and it seems that the political hostel is one of them that symbolizes power and influence, and it is of course flavored with the money of unknown origin. So they're definitely pointing fingers at the higher ups, the circles, the elites. Basically, be on the lookout. He goes on and adds that there is no one who can ask the question, where did you get this from in Diyala, because the endings will be painful. So we continue to pray to God that a day will come when the page of the corrupt will end. So basically, there's a lot of people in there that can see it. They work for the government. They see what's going on, but they have to keep their mouth quiet because they would have consequences themselves. So in here with this fatwa, I have a feeling that that's about to change, and it looks like their day's coming. There's a Ministry of Parliament, Farhat Al-Tamimi, acknowledged that the extreme wealth is a condition that exists in Diyala, and it was referred to several times during conversations with the media in order to explain ownership of huge sums of money among some of them. Basically, it says if this quote, where did you get it from, law was implemented literally and transparently, we would be facing big surprises in Iraq. And I think that's what we're seeing, is big surprises, because I have a feeling that the new system, the new banking system that's coming to everybody, is going to be, or has been successful in following the money. Just like when they asked for that $1 billion. They wanted the billion. Why did you want it? Well, they were lying about it. They didn't get it. That's why they didn't get it. It's because they know that this is where the money is going. It's going into the black market, and they're making money off it. And so effectively, I think what the U.S. Federal Reserve Bank, the U.S. Treasury, Central Bank of Iraq, the government of Iraq, Al-Sistani, I think they all kind of got fed up and they're tired, and they go, no, we got to fix this, and we're going to fix it whether you like it or not. And that's the black market. The black market, it will go away if they do it properly, and in the United States and everybody works together in the international financial system, they're going to shut it down. You're not going to be able to get dollars. You're not going to be able to get dinar. You're not going to get dinar, 000 notes, outside of Iraq to do business. So basically, they're in a conundrum as we speak, as I understand it. I could be wrong, and we'll see how it turns out. But I have a good, strong feeling that what we're seeing right now is fascinating. I think it's an orchestrated move to catch these banks, these non-banks, effectively with no dinar. And they did it publicly. So now it's exposed. The banks have a problem. They were speculating. They were dealing in the black market. Therefore, they're guilty of this fatwa. If I read it right, I'm not saying they are guilty. That's to be judged by them. But the implication is that they would be a suspect to being guilty. So, forgive me if I overstep my bounds. I am not an attorney, just for what it's worth. Let's see, what is it? The huge scarcity of dollars in the government and private banks after an American decision. So we all know that the Federal Reserve rejected Iraq's request to obtain the $1 billion in cash. I went over that. The Treasury officials told the Central Bank of Iraq that sending a large shipment a large additional shipment conflicts with Washington's goal of limiting Iraq's use of United States banknotes. And they go on to say they have conclusive evidence that some of the dollars that were arriving in Iraq were smuggled in cash over the years to countries in the region, including Turkey, Lebanon, Syria, and Jordan, etc. So the United States is basically stating that I would say that the United States and the central bank treasury officials are stating they have conclusive evidence that this has been ongoing, and therefore they need to take drastic actions. So this deal that they're talking about going out to the 1st of January or to the 24th, of course, but what they're saying right now is that we're stopping it now. They're locking it up. They're just going to give them time to finish the process. I think the process got started, and that fatwa and what they did today and exposed those banks for not having the dollars, and they have what I'm going to finish with the central bank is a key component. So we'll watch and see how this goes. I'm almost done. So, but it's kind of a fascinating circumstance because we're basically seeing history. We're seeing things that we didn't know ever before, and we're not supposed to know. The central banks, behind the scenes, it's supposed to be behind the scenes. We do the best that we can with the news that we have, and we report that, okay, to the best of our ability, and we don't always get it right. And sometimes we say things that might shock people and expect to be shocked because we believe that we're seeing things that it would be shocking that it didn't happen. Well, here's that case, but we're actually being shocked that they have a better plan, and they're going after the corrupt during that time frame. But they really pushed the envelope today or yesterday, or the last 4 days. They've been working on this, and it's being exposed. So basically, look, when they said it was unprecedented and it was going to be chaos, what did we get today? That's what we did. So they set the stage for this to happen. Here in the news, it says that the chaos that banks in Baghdad witnessed today on Sunday, after depositors were unable to receive their money in dollars. They just couldn't get the cash. They wouldn't give it to them. It says banks in Baghdad continue to stop procedures for dispersing balances in dollars. They basically apologize, which as they should. They apologize because their balances were zero. They didn't have the dollars. And then you go on to find out why didn't you have the dollars? It was because they were speculating in the black market when they weren't supposed to. So again, back to that fatwa. Anybody, officials, employees that did things that weren't supposed to, sounds like you better come up with some money. It says the instructions from the bank says now stipulate that whoever deposits cash can be reciprocated, while remittances are not given in cash. They can be sent to people to any place or method according to their decision. So they have a mechanism in there so that if you have deposits in cash, they can be, their inherent right is to get that. It says the dollar is not going to be banned, but it will be better to use the Iraqi dinar to make payments in the future. Basically, it's stating that what some banks did was a speculative operation. That's what I said. That's what they're saying. Baghdad, they don't have the dollars because they were speculating in the black market. Big no-no, and they're getting caught. And they're exposing it. I'm pretty sure we're going to see some more information on this in the next couple of days. So what else is next? The last things that we're going to have here shortly is what will happen in Iraq's bank on Sunday. Well, the people were demanding disbursement. People showed up about 11 o'clock in the morning, and they found out that the dollar balance in the bank had run out, so they couldn't get their money. The central bank didn't send reinforcements. Well, why wouldn't the central bank send reinforcements? Because they're in an operation where they're catching people without them, so they can figure out who did what, when, where, and why. And here we go. So it says, as the banks are devoid of dollars, with depositors protesting against what they consider theft operations to take advantage of their balances in the parallel market, or give them to the people with influence or authority. So there you go. The central banks and the UST is basically, and now what the citizens are suggesting that they were speculating with their currency, they don't have it on hand, and there's going to be consequences. Consequences not only by the religious authority, but they're also going to have consequences when it comes to the central bank, as we're going to get to. Basically, fear among customers. They will not be able to withdraw their balances before the end of the current year and convert them to the Iraqi dinar. I think basically that they're probably going to find that they're going to get what they want, get what they deserve, but the people that are in question are going to have some consequences. So I'm assuming, since they have insurance or just some insurance, that they'll get compensated in some shape or form. So we're going to see that. It says here that the citizens attacked all the banks in the capital in Baghdad in an unprecedented manner against the backdrop of the central bank's recent decisions to adopt the dinar. So that's to get back to the main goal here, is that the Iraq central bank wants to adopt what their law states is that they're going to use the dinar. And you know that too, because the dollar is not going to be available, period, for major transactions other than those legal ones, travel, health, school, things of that nature, done. Internal, dinar is gone. Forgive me, the dollar is gone. So the central bank reduced the amount of dollars granted to all banks today. So they were asking for money, and guess what? Central bank says, nope. If you need money, there's a reason why you need money, because you're supposed to have percentages on hand at all times, and you don't have it. Therefore, we just caught you with your pants down, effectively. So here at the last thing, it says the Iraq Central Bank issues a warning to banks regarding dollar deposits. And this came out today, sometime about, I guess it was their time, Baghdad, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning. Central Bank of Iraq warned all banks do not deliver the dollar to citizens under the pretext of implementing the bank's decisions that will come in effect early next year. They go on to some circulars, they give the numbers. It says your banks must take into account the foreign exchange positions allowed in accordance with the above circulars to avoid the inability to meet your customers' requests to withdraw the dollar deposited in cash in their accounts open with you. So they're basically saying the banks must take into account. Okay, the central bank will take into consideration the complaints received from customers and will take the necessary measures against the banks that abstain. Like I said, the Fatwa, and then the central bank says they will take the necessary measures against the banks that have abstained from dealing in the dollar. Okay, so the Central Bank of Iraq confirms that the dollar deposits are guaranteed. I brought that in a little bit ago. And the citizen who deposited his money in dollars with any Iraqi bank previously or by the year 2024 has an inherent right to receive these amounts in cash in US dollars. Therefore, those consequences are going to be on those banks to go get the money, pony it up, or you're going to have some consequences. Because if the central bank is going to have to pony up the tab for all that cash, they're going to come after you. That's my opinion of it. It says the central bank had indicated that the reforms is undertaking aim to achieve compliance of the bank and the Iraqi banking system in general with international compliance and standards, thus preventing the dollar from reaching parties prohibited from obtaining it or speculating with it, just like all those non-banks and private banks that just got their hands slapped, or they're going to get something similar in the short term. So, the fresh edict from the central bank spelling out the citizens have the right to redeem their deposits in the banks and that those monies are guaranteed is their inherent right to do so by 2024. Nonetheless, the unprecedented crowds ensued, and this so-called unusual Sunday that we talked about happened. We talked about it days ago, and we mentioned that this is what was coming. We didn't know for sure what the outcome was or the implications specifically, but they sure painted a really cool picture today, is that they've they're cleaning house, taking names. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed your Sunday afternoon with Militiaman and crew. For all you new folks that are out there, hit that like button and subscribe. And for all those that like to keep this content rolling, we have Venmo, PayPal, and if you'd like to donate, it really helps keep this place going. We appreciate all the help you have. Thank you so much and have a great weekend.
Once again, guys, don't forget to hit that like button if you like this content. Subscribe to the channel or join us at the Militiaman and Crew Patreon community for even more exclusive content. You can also donate to this channel by hitting the links in the banner to help keep this page up and running. Your generous support is greatly appreciated, as always. Much, much appreciated. Thank you so much and have a great day.